Hello, now we're going to be doing listing contracts, my favorite. Listing a property is the hardest thing to do in real estate because that is the most competitive area. Everyone wants listings because you're guaranteed, if you do all the right things and you do your job right, to get a paycheck at the end of the day. It takes time and money, but if spent well and you list the property well and you become a good listing agent, that's where all the money is made. Like I said before, he who controls the inventory controls everything in this business. The first form I have in here is MLS. You won't have an MLS sheet because you're going to have to load it into the MLS once you take the listing, but I put it in there so you can read through that and understand it. And then I put in here a tax roll. From the tax roll is where you're going to be filling out the listing contract. So you always want to pull a tax roll with comparables in a neighborhood prior to going to list a property. The listing floor sheet, or basically the listing floor sheet just gives information about the property that goes to the front desk, and because we do the showing instructions every day from 9 to 5. So this just says how we get in touch. Do we have to call the owner? Is there going to be a lockbox on the property? Or are you going to accompany the showings? You just need to give the information on how it's going to be shown. To fill out the listing contract, again, I prefer the RAGFEL, which is the Greater Fort Lauderdale Board contract. And what I want to do is go through this with you, and I also have an example of another listing contract. You can read them both and make a decision. I prefer this one because I think it's a little better worded. So owner, listing office, property address, legal description, the price on the property, the terms. Basically, they're going to be asking for all cash or financing. The closing date, it's asking for giving them 2 months after we get a contract to close. The expiration date, this is generally 6 months from the listing date, and then you would fill that in there. The personal property going with the personal items going with the property, like range, refrigerator, oven, and anything else that may be staying. Ceiling fans, the amount of ceiling fans, and then it also asks for things that are going to be excluded. So if there's any beautiful dining room fixture or fan or anything attached, you want to note it and then always review this when you get a contract to make sure that you've excluded it from the contract, because the contract will supersede the listing contract. So if you had excluded a dining room fixture and then you didn't notice and it wasn't excluded on the contract, you're going to be buying them a dining room fixture. So you really need to be careful that whatever they're telling you is matching the contract. The professional fee, and this is 6%, and then here that's going to be a total of 6%. And whatever you do, I've seen people put 3% there and then 3% to the other office, so that you don't get paid. So you need to have 6% in there because you're going to be providing 3% to the other office, and a smart attorney will get the seller out of paying you, and you'll be working for nothing. So make sure when you do this, you look at the copy that I have in your file and do it correctly. So the professional fee is a total of 6%. So you give the total, and then what you're going to co-broke or offer on MLS, and that's 3%. And then the processing fee is a plus whatever that is, which is called additional commission. You can't really call it a transaction fee anymore. So you need to just say the additional commission for processing the files is $2.95. It's an exclusive right to sell, meaning anyone that sells the property, including the owner, you get paid. The definition of sale and sold, basically if the title is transferred, it's sold. Representation, we are transaction brokers unless otherwise noted. So in this transaction, we're a transaction broker. And if you want to, it just talks about doing exchanges, which don't usually apply. And then if they do lease the property, we put the 1 month in there. And then if, say that 5 months go by and they want to lease it, then you're all covered. So you don't have to get another contract signed. You can just put it up for rent. Protection period, 180 days. I discussed this earlier with the listings. What that means is the property expires 6 months, it doesn't sell. 2 weeks later, somebody that saw the property when you had it listed comes back and wants to buy the property, they can't go directly to the owner. That would go through, the sale would go through you. So you're protected for 180 days after your listing expires for only people that have gone through the listing when you had it listed. Now, if it expires and another agent lists it, you're completely out of luck. So if somebody looked at it before it expires and then it was relisted and then someone came back from your listing, then the new agent would get paid. It's a professional courtesy we extend once your listing is over and the property is relisted, that no longer can you bring any contracts in. This just states about doing advertising and all the things we do and we do already, and it just talks about failure to perform, and then also a conditional withdrawal or a non-conditional withdrawal. The conditional withdrawal is for $1,000, just means that they decided that they're just going to stay in their house. So they'll pay you $1,000 just to take it off the market and conditionally withdraw it, condition that they're not going to sell it. Now, an unconditional withdrawal means that they can sell the property and you will not get a commission. The conditional withdrawal is only for people that it's just to help in your advertising. You could just say, hey, listen, I didn't spend a lot of money, just give me $500. You can negotiate that at a later date, or you can say 1%. You can put anything in there. But the only thing that the conditional withdrawal would be for is if they wanted to take the property off the market for some personal reason. Now, an unconditional, if you give that kind of a withdrawal, the problem with that is then you will not be paid, period. So you need to be really careful on that. Just read through this. I don't see anything else. I mean, it's just talking about websites and things like that, and just covers you with signs, that you're able to have a sign, and that we're not going to be responsible with keys and lock boxes if something happens to the property for having a lockbox on there. It also gives it a check if they're going to release keys to us or to a lockbox. If they're going to put a lockbox on there just to protect us, God forbid. I mean, I have never really, maybe 1 or 2 incidences in all the years I've had for having a lockbox on a property. Deposits. This just states that if there's any deposits, that will be split between the owner and the agent up to their full commission, like we talked about with the rentals. The care has to be borne on the seller. So you're not going to be responsible if the house is vacant to mow the lawn or do anything like that. If they list it with multiple brokers, they could owe multiple commissions, so that is not recommended. The laws affecting the property. This is the FIRPTA laws for foreign investors. Brush up on that if you have somebody that's a foreign seller. Make sure you know the laws, the FIRPTA laws. I'm not going to go through the FIRPTA right now because there's a lot to it. But make sure you come to me and ask me and get some information about it if you have a seller that's not a U.S. citizen. Fair housing, again, as we know how important that is, and heirs. This is borne on the heirs of the property. If you have a deal, then they have to go through with that. Attorney fees. Basically, if you're in breach of the contract, it just states the winning party will pay that. Then just basically a final agreement. And then just sign here. Read it, get to know it, and understand it. Now, a seller's disclosure. The seller's disclosure is very important, that you never fill that out. All you do is put in the name of the parties involved, and that's it. Because this needs to be in their handwriting. They need to write this in, because then they're going to say, oh, you filled it out. You left things out. So that's where you can get in a lot of trouble. So you want to make sure, positively sure, that they fill this out in their handwriting and that they do complete the full seller's disclosure. I gave you a couple examples. I, again, used the RAGFEL on the seller's disclosure. And last but not least, when you're at the property, what I suggest is to take the RE1, RE2 forms It's basically the MLS input form until you get used to doing it. It's not a required to fill out form. It's just that it gives you all the breakdown so you know all the items that you be loading into MLS. And it gives you all the answers, like if you go through here, you'll know all the codes and what they mean. So until you get used to it, I always have a copy of the RE1, meaning that it's just a single family home, and RE2 are condos and villas and townhomes. So that's it. Go get a listing. You're able to do it now. Review all the forms good. Any questions, please call, don't guess. And other than that, I think that you can use the forms that I filled out, read them. I've got them all filled out for you. Go through them so you understand them. And if you have any questions, always call me. Thank you.